Welcome to Hub City Spokes, where creators, catalysts, entrepreneurs, and leaders share their insight here in Lubbock, Texas. I'm Katherine White with the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, and today we have John Smothers, President and CEO of Reproductive Solutions, Inc. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Katherine.
So I didn't know this, but I read on your website that 1 in 7 couples in the United States struggle with infertility.
Yes, it's a huge issue, and it's not just in the United States; it's worldwide. There was a international report released in January of 2018 that worldwide the fertility of males has dropped 60% in the last 4 decades. And so it's a growing problem. And when I first got involved with this company, with this technology, the male was a problem probably 35% of the time for couples in fertility clinics. Now it's over 50%.
So can you tell us a little bit about Reproductive Solutions and how you walk through this process with these couples and the technology that you provide?
Okay. Well, the technology focuses on the methodology and the device that you use to collect the semen. Originally, the technology was focused for the cattle industry, but when we had a chance to pivot that direction and actually do some human trials, we got really excited with the results. We looked at the different factors of what provides a good semen sample that improves the chances that the couple is going to be successful. And when we looked at the process that's used today, which is the standard specimen cup, like you'd give a urine sample, that's the gold standard today. So if they need, or when they need, a sample from the male, that's what it's going to be collected in, and he's required in almost all cases to do that in the clinic. And the reason for that is that once the sample is collected, you've got about 45 minutes to process it because it begins to degrade very rapidly. And that's because of the change in environment. The typical sample is small, and when you spread it over a large area, like you would in here, then the temperature drops very rapidly. The sperm think that it's time to go find an egg, even though there's not an egg around. And so if you looked at the video of those sperm, it'd be like you normally see where they're swimming, all over the place. That's because, they're on the kamikaze mission. It's time to go. In our device, which is marked under Protex, the design of the device simply is put there to mitigate those environmental changes. So the sample, when it's collected in Protex, in our device, remains stable for 48 hours. And so that means couples can collect at home. The sample is 40% more viable, so their chances of having a good pregnancy go up.
So coming up with this concept, this new technology, can you walk us through that point to now and the Innovation Hub's work in that, your collaboration with them, how it came to life?
Okay. It's a little different story than usual. I've been involved in this area of economic development, looking for ways to create jobs through innovation for some time. Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, LEDA, back in 2001, started a program called the Lubbock Regional Bioscience Initiative, which I chaired until they closed the program in 2010. And the purpose of that process was to provide networking events and an environment to where researchers could meet with service providers, investors could come in, we could have professional speakers on different areas and give them a chance to network and see if we could spin some things up. And during that process, a couple of things happened. One, we really began looking as a community for some way to incubate companies, to provide them an environment and the services they need to be successful. And the other was that I personally got to meet lots of the researchers. In this case, the co-founders with me for Reproductive Solutions were researchers that were networking in those events. And as the program was beginning to shut down in 2009, they came to me and said, we really think that this technology we have can be very disruptive, can really be a game changer for couples, but we don't know how to get it out there. We live in the lab, and that's where we like to be. And so will you help us? And so we formed the company in 2009, and just as a part-time basis, because I was working full-time building other companies, we began to look at it. And initially the focus was on cattle. And we had an opportunity to really look at the human side. So we put together some FDA-approved human trials. They were small, but enough to tell us if what we thought was right was right. And we saw as a result of those trials that indeed the sample for humans mirrored what we saw in other mammals. And that is, if it was collected this way, the sample would be about 40% more viable. And something that we saw that we weren't looking for was that when we looked at the couples in these trials, if she became pregnant, did she go full term and deliver a healthy baby? In the cases where the current practice was used, that answer to that question was 40%. In our case, it was 100%. We really were not looking for that, and that's something that we've continued to research to try to figure out why. And we think it has something to do with the fact that the DNA is not fragmented when it's collected using our device. And we actually are starting new trials at Texas Tech next month to prove that out with a new polymer or plastic formulation that we've come up with that we think will totally eliminate the DNA fragmentation, which is typically the reason for miscarriage.
Right.
So that was the process as far as the company was going. And what happened, that it went from being a part-time project to a full-time project, is where the Innovation Hub comes in. I had not heard about the hub when it was first built, but in 2017, there was a call for mentors to assist with the students or other community members that were trying to build companies here to come in and help them. I wanted to do that. It's a passion of mine. And during the process of being vetted as a mentor, they asked what this Reproductive Solutions was that was buried in the resume. So I told them the story, and they said, well, you really need to pull your team together and enter the competition. So we met about it and decided we would do that, and entered and won. And then so that gave us a little grant, gave us a little momentum, I guess, to try some other things. And as we continued to take advantage of the mentors and the programs here, we won additional grants, entered the accelerator where we had a team of mentors that surrounded us to help us solve some issues. One of the big one at that point was, where are we going to manufacture this? Ideally, we wanted to do that in Lubbock. I worked at one time as a partner for Gary Products Group, which was the company that built all the plastic shingle tabs. You put Christmas lights up on your houses. And so I was involved in the injection molding part of that, which Industrial Molding Corporation here in Lubbock did all that molding. At the time that I was involved with them, they had a FDA shop, or an area that was qualified to produce FDA products. Today they don't. And so we looked for who can we get to do that. And the closest sister company for industrial molding was in Boston. It's not quite in Texas. And so it so happened one of the mentors that was assigned to our team had two different companies that he developed that involved injection molding. Both were FDA devices. And he built those companies and sold them both. And he said, well, there's a guy that I use to do all that molding that's in Jacksonville, Texas. And so it's called Stencor. So I made a trip to Jacksonville and met with Keith Lindsay, and he was a perfect fit for us, and really excited us because we could keep all those production jobs at least in Texas, if not in Lubbock.
Right. So when you were connected with the hub and they encouraged you to enter this contest and y'all won, and this, as you mentioned, some of the statistics, this seems like a product that would hit the market fast and have an incredible impact, for fertility. So where are y'all in that process, and what's that been like?
The process has been much longer than we envisioned. One of the founders of the company, there's 4 of us. One of them is Dr. Dusty Johnson, who lives in Midland. And for the past 10, 11 years, she had worked for companies like EMD Serrano and Merck and others, and had a reputation of being, in essence, the fertility expert in the United States. So if a clinic had issues, that's who they would send in to help them work on those issues. So she has access to all the clinics in the United States virtually. There's 428. But the clinics are, they're very, I'm going to say superstitious, might be a good word. They have certain processes that they use. Their success rates are very important. The CDC considers infertility a disease. And so all of these clinics are required to report annually how many IVF cycles they're doing and what their success rates are. These couples, in most cases that are involved with infertility, there's rarely insurance involved. So they're paying pretty much everything as their dime. And it gets very expensive. IVF procedure is typically $22,000. And you'll do 3 to 5 of those to try to achieve a pregnancy. So couples really look at, well, where am I going to spend that money? So they look at the success rates in clinics. So we currently have 3 clinics that are using Protex. We have 16 that are evaluating, but their evaluation process is very slow. And without additional data, they're reluctant to make a change, because what if what we're telling them isn't right? What if their success rates go down? And so it's been very slow to try to build that data and get all those things in place. And part of what has kept it slow is that we wanted to follow this process of kind of like the medical liaison that Dusty was used to try to get into the clinics. And up to this point, we've bootstrapped everything, which means the founders have put all the money in. So we're at that point where we have interest from the market, but we need to do some things to expand nationally. And so we're in the process. We finished a pre-market valuation of the company, and we're in the process of doing an initial capital raise, which is $1.5 million. We're in that process now, and I'll be in Dallas next week to meet with some of those investors. And as we put that together, then we'll enter the market through a whole network of distributors. So we have lots of boots on the ground rather than 1 or 2 people. We're passionate about this. We know it's a game changer. And we want to do everything we can to get it out there and to get it out there fast. We feel like every day that it isn't used, there's couples that could have been helped that weren't.
Right. And you started this here in Lubbock. Obviously, like you said, there's a great need for it, globally even. Are you hoping to keep it here? And what's your thoughts on having your business here in Lubbock?
In terms of the company, yes, absolutely. It's convenient, I guess you could say, that the technology was developed in Lubbock. But it's not just convenience that the company's here. Lubbock is a wonderful place to live your life, to bring up a family. I've been in Lubbock since 58, except for 1 year after one of the companies I helped build, we sold it, and I moved away to work with some consultants, and we realized very quickly, looking at the changes in our 2 sons, who were young at that point, and how that they were reacting with the community around them, that we felt like, we really need to go back to where values that are important to us, family, community, religion, are important community factors, and that's the way Lubbock is. So we moved back, and there's no intention of moving the company out of Lubbock.
What do you enjoy about the business side of Lubbock and having a business here?
In terms of the community overall, there's a huge amount of support. Lubbock is still, in my opinion, a pioneer community. We grew up out here, or the community grew up out in the middle of nowhere. And in the evenings, you put your lanterns up on, your windmill, so people knew where they could find help if they need it. If somebody showed up needing help, they got it. And that's the way it still is today. And I know I've heard a lot of times as I've worked talking to companies trying to get them to think about moving into Lubbock, which is another part of what we do with the Bioscience Initiative. That initiative is the reason that Bear Crop Science is here today, because we talk to them about all of the technologies that are being developed at Tech, and wouldn't you like to be here and be part of that? And so they come to Lubbock, and then they see how friendly the community is. And one of the things they almost always will comment about, even though they've been here a short time, is the work ethic that they see in the people in Lubbock. Well, I have a theory on that, and my theory is that we don't have things here to distract us. There's no mountains or beach that's pulling at us. The things that become important to us are the things that we see every day, and that's our friends and family and the community that's around us. And so those become the high priorities. And so I don't think we miss those things. I mean, we're still close enough. I think maybe we appreciate them more when we go away. But day to day, we look at the person that we're working with, or the person we're in church with, or the social aspects, I guess, of life. And Lubbock offers a great deal of that. I've seen a huge shift, particularly as our growth rates have taken off, of things coming in and being available in Lubbock that are very important when you talk in terms of people selecting a place to build technologies. Things like, are there lots of restaurants to go to? I don't know if there's a better ratio of restaurants per capita than in Lubbock. And part of that is people go out and eat rather than running off to the mountains. I mean, they want to be with their friends and that kind of thing. And the arts and the music scene, those have, I think, exploded in the last few years, and particularly with the commitments like the new Buddy Holly Center and that kind of thing. I think there'll be more and more of that. And if there was any piece missing that, the Silicon Valley guys might be looking for that Lubbock didn't have at one time, it was those things, and it's not that way anymore. So Lubbock's, it's a good decision to build companies here. Cost of living's great. 15 minutes anywhere, not that way in Dallas.
That's very true. So you have a lot of experience in building businesses, like you said, building and selling businesses, very much an entrepreneur. What's some advice that you might give someone that's looking to start a company? Maybe they have that, idea that they really think could be impactful, or maybe they've been in the process for a while and they're looking for funding, or what would you say to them?
I would say count your blessings that you're in Lubbock. The Innovation Hub has a number of programs, and even though it's the Texas Tech Innovation Hub, it's open to the community. So you don't have to be a tech student or a faculty member to take advantage of the programs here. And so there are lots of ways, different programs that you could enter that, maybe the idea is just something in your head. Maybe you really haven't developed it. Well, there's programs here that you can bring that idea in and vet it in front of people. And if people like your idea, we'll actually form teams around it and, help you determine if there's, if it's got feet, if it'll go or not. It's a risk to be an entrepreneur, but the payoff can be very high. And particularly in the bioscience area, there's a lot of that going on, given the health science center here. It used to be that if you were going to do something with a bioscience company, you needed to go out there and raise $50 million just because of that was the way it had to go. And to do that, you had to get involved with venture capitalists, and in most cases, you lost control of your company. The landscape is not that way anymore. There are many innovations and ways that you can get through a proof of concept with $50,000. And there are programs through the hub that we can help you locate those dollars. And in fact, there's a program underway to create a venture fund that will be associated with the Innovation Hub, to where those dollars will be used as seed money to invest in the companies that people want to start up.
And you serve as the Director of Mentor Recruitment, so there's lots of good connections with mentors. Oh,
yes. We currently have, I believe, 47 mentors that are part of Innovation Hub. You don't have to be in Lubbock to be a mentor. We have mentors that are in other parts of the country. As I had mentioned, in our case, we had a mentor that helped us find the manufacturer we were looking for. Well, that mentor is in Michigan. And so we have lots of technology innovations that are in the hub itself. And so we have conference rooms where we're meeting once a month with our mentor groups, and those guys are connected with us, remotely. And so they're as involved as they could be sitting in the room with you.
It's incredible to have that kind of connection with, that pool of people that have such knowledge and developing businesses, developing ideas, and are producing products like yourself that could really be incredibly impactful for someone and be groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that has surprised me with, because our mentor group isn't large, it's built on the same model that MIT uses, and they've been here, their representatives, to help us groom the program, of how many times with our small entrepreneur group a problem comes up and they've been there. They've done that. They've had that same experience. And so they can, I'm one of them, we can offer pathways that you can very rapidly get around that problem and get it solved and move on to the next thing.
We appreciate what you do and are very excited for your technology, and hopefully it'll continue to grow in the future. And as you mentioned, you have big plans coming up in Dallas soon. So
yes, we're excited.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. I'm Katherine White, the host here with Lubbock Economic Development Alliance. Thanks for joining us. Hub City Spokes is presented by the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance and produced in partnership with Hamill Brothers Studios. A special thanks to the Innovation Hub here at Texas Tech University for hosting us. To hear more from our creators and catalysts, visit lubbockeda.org/podcast.